Ethan Cole crouched behind a pile of broken stone, his pulse racing. Smoke and fire filled the air, and the ground shook from distant explosions. Around him, the ruins of Vera Ninda's once great city were a battlefield. Crumbled towers and shattered streets were littered with debris, and the cries of the wounded echoed in the distance. Humans and Valyrians fought everywhere. It was chaos, but Ethan felt alive in the storm. He adjusted his grip on his plasma rifle and scanned the area. His squad had been separated during the last ambush, leaving him alone. That was fine. Ethan knew how to handle himself. He had trained for years for this moment. But even with his confidence, he couldn't ignore the feeling that something powerful watched him from the shadows. A shadow flickered near a collapsed wall. Ethan froze. He held his breath. Then a figure stepped out. She was tall, taller than any human, with pale, almost translucent skin. Her long hair shimmered silver in the firelight, and her eyes glowed faintly with a strange inner light. She carried a curved blade, sharp and deadly. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. This had to be the Valyrian warrior he had heard about. Lyra, they called her. Among the Valyrians, she was known as the Moonfang. She was fierce, fast, and clever. No human had ever faced her and lived. But Ethan didn't hesitate. He stood, letting his rifle hang at his side, and faced her. Lyra's gaze met his. She smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was sharp, cold, and dangerous. Then, without warning, she lunged. Ethan rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding her blade. Sparks flew as her weapon struck the stone behind him. He fired his rifle, and a burst of energy hit her shoulder. She hissed, twisting her body gracefully and striking back. Her movements were fluid, like water flowing, but full of deadly force. Ethan barely blocked her strike with his forearm. The impact sent a jolt through his body, but he kept his focus. They fought in silence, the clash of weapons echoing through the ruins. Ethan had never faced an enemy like this. Her speed was incredible, her reflexes faster than any human's. Yet he felt something different in her. Every time she attacked, he sensed hesitation, as if she were testing him. And he wondered why. A sudden explosion from a nearby building forced them both to jump aside. Dust filled the air, and the firelight cast long shadows across the ruins. Ethan used the chance to close the distance. He kicked a piece of rubble at her, forcing her to step back. Then he lunged, aiming to grab her arm. She dodged at the last second, but something unexpected happened. Her blade grazed his arm, and a thin line of blood appeared. Ethan hissed, but didn't stop. Lyra recoiled for a moment, staring at the blood on his skin. Her eyes widened in shock. "What?" she whispered, almost to herself. Ethan noticed the change. She seemed frozen for a heartbeat, her movements slowing. Then she shook her head and lunged again, but her attacks lacked the previous precision. Ethan could feel her hesitation. He pressed the advantage, moving with careful, controlled strikes. He didn't know it yet, but the Valyrians had a strange ability. When they tasted the blood of a warrior, they could absorb some of their strength, their emotions, even their memories. That was what made them so terrifying. But human blood was different. When Lyra tasted Ethan's blood during the fight, it did not make her stronger. Instead, it filled her with strange, new feelings, fear, confusion, and even a touch of awe. Ethan's strike connected with her side, and she stumbled back, hissing in pain. He didn't press further. He could see the surprise in her eyes. She had never felt anything like this before. Her mind, trained to dominate humans, now fought against a sudden flood of foreign emotions. She felt sadness for the first time in her life. She felt fear, not for herself, but for him. Lyra took a step back, lowering her blade slightly. Ethan raised an eyebrow, unsure of what to do next. The silence between them was heavy, filled with tension. He wanted to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Her eyes held something he had never seen in an enemy, something almost human. Why do I feel this? She muttered, more to herself than to him. Ethan didn't answer. He only watched. He realized this might be his only chance to escape or to understand this enemy. Slowly, carefully, he backed away, keeping his eyes on her. Lyra's gaze followed him. She felt drawn to him, though she didn't understand why. Her instincts told her to kill him, to finish the fight, but her mind was clouded with emotions she could not name. Her chest tightened. She had never felt this before, never for a human. The ground shook again as another explosion rocked the ruins. Dust fell like rain, and the smell of smoke filled the air. Ethan knew he needed to find his squad before the Valyrians regrouped. He turned and ran, not looking back. Lyra watched him go, her body trembling. She sank to one knee, gripping her blade tightly. She tasted the air, searching for more of his blood. more of the emotions that now filled her mind. She felt an unfamiliar ache in her chest. She had fought countless humans, but none had ever done this to her. None had made her feel fear, sorrow, and admiration all at once. The city around them was falling apart. Fires burned uncontrolled, and the screams of battle echoed everywhere. Yet, for a brief moment, the world seemed to shrink to just the two of them. She could still feel his courage, his determination, and his strange kindness. Something deep inside her stirred. Something she had never known existed. Ethan ran through the ruins, his mind racing. He could still feel the weight of her gaze on him. It was strange, almost like she was thinking about him even as she fought to survive. He shook his head, trying to push the thought away. This was war. He could not let anything distract him, even a strange connection with an enemy warrior. He found a hiding place in a collapsed building, crouching among the rubble. His body ached from the fight and his clothes were torn and bloodied, but his mind was alive with questions. Who was this Valyrian? Why had she hesitated? And why, when she tasted his blood, had she changed? Meanwhile, Lyra stayed in the shadows, watching the human disappear into the ruins. She whispered to herself, her voice trembling. This human, he is different. He is unlike any I have faced. He is strong, but more than that. He is alive in a way I do not understand. For the first time in her life, she felt uncertainty. She had been trained to hunt, to fight, to conquer. But now her instincts were in conflict with the strange emotions Ethan had awakened in her. Fear, fascination, and something dangerously close to admiration mingled inside her mind. Night fell over the ruined city. Fires cast flickering shadows over broken walls and collapsed towers. The sounds of distant battle faded, replaced by the quiet whispers of wind through the rubble. Ethan crouched in the darkness, watching and waiting, knowing the fight was far from over. And somewhere in the shadows, Lyra lingered as well. Her heart pounded, her mind torn between her duty and the new, unfamiliar feelings Ethan's blood had awakened. She knew one thing for certain: this human was different. He had changed her in ways she could not yet understand. The city of Vera Naim lay in ruins. But in the midst of chaos, two warriors, one human, one Valyrian, were connected by a bond that neither of them could explain. A bond that had begun with the taste of blood, the shock of emotion, and the quiet realization that this war was more complicated than either had imagined. Ethan and Lyra were now linked by fate, though neither knew what the future held. And as the first stars appeared in the sky above the broken city, something unspoken passed between them. It was fear, it was curiosity, it was awe, and it was only the beginning. The night deepened and the city held its breath. Somewhere deep in the ruins, a human warrior slept fitfully, unaware that he had changed the life of a Valyrian forever, and somewhere a Valyrian warrior knelt in the shadows, tasting the memory of his blood, feeling the stirrings of a strange, powerful connection that might one day reshape both their worlds. The war raged on, but for the first time there was a pause, a moment of uncertainty, and the quiet spark of something new and dangerous. The sun rose over the ruins of Vera 9, casting weak light over broken buildings and streets filled with rubble. The air was heavy with smoke and the smell of fire lingered everywhere. Birds did not sing here. Only silence and distant echoes of the previous night's battle remained. Lyra sat in a small hidden chamber beneath the ruins. Her body ached from the fight, but her mind was even more restless. She could still feel Ethan's blood on her lips, the strange warmth and strength it gave her. Not the power she was used to, but something new. Her chest felt tight, her thoughts raced, confused and wild. She had fought humans her entire life, but none had ever done this to her. None had made her feel anything beyond hunger and victory. She touched her hand to her face, trying to calm herself. "Why do I feel this?" she whispered. "Why do I feel pain and fear, but also something else?" Lyra could not answer herself. Her people believed humans were weak, fragile, and simple, but the human warrior had shown her something she did not understand. His courage, his determination, even his kindness, it all lived in her mind now, mixed with her own emotions. It was disorienting. She thought about him often, even as she moved silently through the ruins. Ethan Cole, the human who had survived her attack, who had fought with honor, who had looked at her not as a monster but as an enemy worthy of respect. His face, his expression, the way he carried himself, it haunted her. She had never experienced this before, and it scared her. Meanwhile, Ethan moved cautiously through the ruined streets. He had found temporary safety in a collapsed building and had taken the night to rest. His arm still stung from the fight, and the scratch on his side had turned red. He cleaned it as best he could and wrapped it with a strip torn from his uniform. He thought about Lyra often, too, not with fear or hatred, but with curiosity. There was something different about her. She was strong, skilled, and deadly, yes, but there was also something more. Her eyes had shown a flicker of hesitation, and when she touched his blood, she had changed. Ethan could not understand how, but he sensed it. He shook his head, trying to focus. The war was not over. His squad was still out there, and the Valyrians were strong. But for the first time, he felt something he could not name. Concern for the enemy he had faced. He wondered if she was still alive. Lyra moved through the ruins with care. She avoided other Valyrians who might recognize her hesitation as weakness. She could not explain it, but a part of her wanted to see him again. She wanted to feel his blood, not as a predator, but as a strange bond forming between them. She had been trained to destroy humans, but she felt conflicted. This was new, dangerous, and frightening. Days passed. Lyra stayed hidden, watching the humans from a distance. She observed Ethan and his squad as they moved carefully through the city, trying to regroup. She saw how he led them, how he cared for his team, how he protected them even at great risk to himself. Every observation brought new feelings. Respect, admiration, and something warmer, though she did not understand it. One night she approached cautiously, keeping her distance. Ethan crouched near a ruined building, tending to a small fire. His face was tired, covered in soot and blood, but he looked alive. She wanted to step closer, to touch the earth where he had walked, but she did not. Her instincts screamed at her to strike, to kill, but her heart refused. Instead, she stayed in the shadows, watching. She felt his presence in a way she had never felt before. It was more than human strength. It was his courage, his honesty, his willingness to fight not just for himself but for others. She had tasted his blood, and it had given her a window into his mind, his soul. Meanwhile, Ethan felt something too. He did not know why, but he sensed he was being watched. It was not fear he felt, but awareness, like a shadow moving in the corner of his mind. He reached for his rifle but stopped. There was a strange pull, a feeling of connection he could not explain. He whispered softly to himself, "I know you're there. I can feel you." Lyra's breath caught. She had expected him to react with aggression, but instead he seemed calm, almost understanding. That made her pulse quicken. She stayed hidden, but for the first time she wanted to reveal herself. The next day, Ethan's squad received new orders. They had to infiltrate a Valyrian supply base to gather intelligence. Ethan volunteered to lead the mission, as always. He moved carefully through the ruins, knowing the enemy would be watching. He did not know Lyra would be there waiting. Lyra had already sensed his approach. She positioned herself near the entrance of the supply base, blending with the shadows. Her senses were heightened. She could feel his blood calling to her from afar, the strange energy that had flowed into her when she had tasted it. She did not know what it meant, but she knew she could not let him be harmed by her people. As Ethan entered the base, he saw traps and patrols everywhere. He moved silently, using his training to avoid detection. He noticed something unusual. The patrols seemed cautious, as if they expected something or someone. And then he saw her. Lyra stepped out from the shadows, her blade ready. He froze for a moment, surprised. She did not attack. Her eyes were wide, full of conflicting emotions. She looked at him, and for a heartbeat the world seemed to stop. Ethan sensed her hesitation, and it gave him hope. "You're alive," he said quietly. She did not respond immediately. Her mind raced. She wanted to strike, to follow her instincts, but another part of her, awakened by his blood, held her back. She stepped aside, signaling him to move forward. The humans moved cautiously, unaware that their enemy was letting them pass. Ethan felt a strange trust, an unspoken understanding between them. He did not know why she spared them, but he did not question it. He only moved forward, grateful for the unexpected ally. Later, as they reached the center of the supply base, a patrol discovered them. Alarms blared, and humans and Valyrians clashed in a violent battle. Ethan fought with skill and precision, but he noticed that Lyra was not attacking him. Instead, she fought the Valyrians who threatened him. She moved like a shadow, silent and deadly, protecting him from danger. Ethan realized the truth. Her bond with him had changed her. She was no longer just an enemy. She had tasted his blood and absorbed a part of his strength, courage, and mind. She was fighting not out of duty, but because she wanted to keep him alive. The battle was fierce. The explosions rocked the base and fire spread quickly. Humans and Valyrians fell on both sides, but Ethan and Lyra survived, moving together through the chaos. When the last of the patrols was defeated, they found themselves alone in a ruined corridor. Lyra leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. Her blade was nicked and scratched, but she was unharmed. Ethan looked at her, astonished. Why did you help me?" he asked. She looked down, unsure what to say. Her voice was soft, trembling. I don't know," she admitted. "When I tasted your blood, I felt something. I've never felt this before. I could not let you die." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He had expected hatred, not honesty. He nodded slowly. "I don't understand it either, but thank you." They stood there for a moment, two warriors from opposite sides of a war, bound together by something neither could explain. Their eyes met, and in that quiet moment a strange trust was formed. A trust that would change both their lives forever. As they left the ruined supply base moving toward safety, Lyra kept her distance but stayed close enough to watch over him. She still did not fully understand her feelings, but she knew one thing. This human had touched something deep inside her. Something she could not ignore. Ethan moved carefully, leading his squad back to their temporary camp. He kept glancing at the shadows, sensing her presence. It was strange, comforting, and unnerving all at once. He could feel her watching him, protecting him without a word. That night, under a sky filled with stars, both Ethan and Lyra reflected on the day's events. The war was far from over, but a bond had been formed. A bond of blood, trust, and something more. Something neither could name. For the first time, the enemy did not feel so distant. For the first time, Lyra questioned everything she had believed about humans. And for the first time, Ethan wondered if there could be something beyond war, a connection that could change everything. The night was quiet, but their thoughts were loud. Two warriors, one human and one Valyrian, bound together in a dangerous and uncertain world. Their journey had only just begun, and the story of blood, courage, and trust was far from over. The stars above Varanheim shone dimly over the ruins, but in the hearts of these two warriors a spark had ignited, a spark that would guide them through battles, danger, and the unknown future that awaited them both. The ruins of Varanheim stretched endlessly under a gray sky. Smoke rose from burned buildings, and the smell of fire lingered in the air. The city was silent now, but the quiet did not mean peace. Ethan Cole and his squad had survived the supply base attack, but danger was still close. He knew the Valyrians would not forget the events of the last few days. Ethan moved cautiously through the broken streets, leading his small team. His arm still throbbed from the fight, and his side itched from the scratch Lyra had left during their duel. He tried not to think about it. His focus was survival, not the strange connection he felt to the alien warrior. Lyra followed from a distance, hidden in shadows. She had made a choice. She would not allow her people to harm Ethan. She still did not fully understand her own feelings, but one thing was clear. She could not leave him alone. Humans were supposed to be weak, simple, and easy to destroy, yet Ethan had changed something in her. He had awakened emotions she did not know existed. As Ethan and his squad crossed a wide plaza, they were suddenly ambushed. Valyrian soldiers emerged from behind the ruins, their eyes glowing with hostility. Energy weapons flared, and humans fell to the ground with cries of pain. Ethan fired back, moving swiftly, but he was outnumbered. The squad was pushed back, cornered near the edge of the plaza. Just when it seemed they would be overwhelmed, a shadow moved among the attackers. Lyra appeared, her blade glowing faintly as she cut through the Valyrians with precision and speed. Ethan froze, watching her fight. She was deadly, but she ignored him, attacking only those who threatened his squad. Her movements were smooth and powerful, but there was a strange care in her actions. She protected him without hesitation, taking hits that would have killed any human. The battle lasted only minutes, but it felt like hours. When the last Valyrian fell, Lyra stepped back, breathing heavily. Ethan approached her slowly. He could see the scratches and bruises on her arms, and he realized how much she had risked to protect him. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Why did you fight for us?" Lyra lowered her blade, her eyes filled with confusion. I do not know," she admitted. When I tasted your blood, I felt something. I have never felt this before. I could not let you die, not then, not now. Ethan's heart beat faster. He did not understand it either, but he knew one thing: he owed her his life. He nodded slowly. Then we need to move, he said. The Valyrians will come again. They moved together through the ruins, silent but aware. Ethan noticed that she stayed close but did not touch him or interfere unless necessary. Lyra's presence was reassuring, even though it made him uneasy. Humans were not supposed to trust their enemies, but she was different. As they traveled, Lyra began to speak. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. Your people, they are brave. Even when faced with death, you do not give up. I have fought humans for my entire life. None have been like you. Ethan looked at her surprised. Why do you say that? He asked. Because, she said, I have seen fear, weakness, and surrender in humans before, but you fight with courage and honor. And when I tasted your blood, I felt your mind, your strength, your determination. It changed me. Ethan did not know what to say. He had never heard a Valyrian speak like this, never admitted any kind of respect for a human. It made him wary, but also curious. You're not supposed to feel that way, he said cautiously. I do not understand it, she admitted, but I cannot ignore it. Your blood. It has awakened something in me, something dangerous, something I do not want but cannot stop. They continued moving through the ruins, avoiding patrols and searching for a safe place to rest. The bond between them grew stronger with every step. Lyra's presence was constant, a silent promise of protection. Ethan could feel it in the way she moved, always alert, always watching. That night, they found shelter in the remains of a burned-out building. Ethan checked his weapons and supplies while Lyra kept watch outside. The moonlight filtered through the broken roof, casting shadows over the rubble. Ethan sat quietly, thinking about everything that had happened. He could still feel her eyes on him even when she was hidden. It was strange, unsettling, and somehow comforting. He wondered what this bond meant, if anything. Lyra returned after a while, crouching near him. She looked tired, her shoulders slumped. I have protected you this far, she said softly. But I fear it will not be enough. More Valyrians will come, and I cannot fight them all forever. Ethan nodded. We'll find a way, he said. We always do. Her eyes met his, and for a moment the world seemed to pause. She saw something in him that she could not name. Strength, hope, and something deeper. Her instincts told her to strike, to fight, to survive. But another part of her, the part awakened by his blood, told her to stay, to protect, to trust. Days passed. They traveled together, moving cautiously through the ruined city. They shared food and water and occasionally small words of conversation. Lyra taught Ethan about her people, their history, and their fighting style. Ethan shared stories of his squad, their training, and their hope to survive and protect each other. Through it all, a bond grew between them. It was silent, unspoken, but strong. Each felt it, though neither fully understood. Lyra had tasted his blood, and through it she had seen his mind, his courage, and his spirit. Ethan could not explain the connection he felt to her, but he knew it was real. One afternoon, they encountered a group of Valyrians blocking their path. Ethan and Lyra crouched behind a wall preparing for the fight. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly, and she stepped forward, signaling him to stay back. She moved like a shadow, silent and deadly, cutting down the attackers before they could even raise their weapons. Ethan watched in awe. Her skill was unmatched, but her actions were not just about survival. She fought to protect him. Every strike, every movement spoke of a strange loyalty and care he had never expected from an enemy. After the fight, they caught their breath in the ruins of an old building. Lyra's blade was nicked and scratched, and her armor was dented. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. You are strong, she said finally. Stronger than I thought. But more than that, you are different. Your blood. It has changed me. Ethan swallowed. Changed you how? She hesitated, then said softly, It gave me feelings I do not understand. Fear, respect, admiration. Perhaps even something more. I do not know, but I cannot ignore it. Ethan nodded slowly. Then we'll face it together, he said. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Lyra looked at him, her eyes softening. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel trust, to feel connection. She knew the Valyrians would never forgive her if they discovered her hesitation, but she could not turn back now. Not after tasting his blood, not after feeling what she felt. They moved again, traveling through the ruins with a cautious purpose. Patrols were everywhere, and danger was always close. But for the first time, Ethan and Lyra felt something other than fear. They felt a strange bond, unspoken but powerful. A bond of trust, respect, and the beginnings of something more. As night fell, they found a temporary shelter in the ruins of an old factory. Ethan checked his weapons and supplies, and Lyra took watch outside. The wind whistled through broken windows, and the distant sound of battle echoed in the city. Ethan thought about her, about the strange feelings she had awakened in him. He did not understand them, but he knew they were real. And somewhere deep inside, he hoped she felt the same way. Lyra, crouched in the shadows, thought about him too. She had tasted his blood, seen his mind, and felt his courage. She had never imagined that a human could affect her this way, and now she could not ignore it. The city lay in ruins, but in the darkness, two warriors, one human, one Valyrian, shared a bond that neither fully understood. A bond that had begun with blood, courage, and respect, and that would only grow stronger as they faced the dangers ahead. The war was far from over. Valyrians and humans continued to fight across the planet. But for Ethan and Lyra, a new journey had begun, one that would test their strength, their courage, and the bond that connected them in ways neither could yet explain. Above the ruins, the stars shone dimly through the smoke and ash. But for these two warriors there was a spark of hope, a spark that would guide them through battles, danger, and the unknown future that awaited them both. The ruined city of Vera 9 was quiet that morning, but the silence was fragile. Ethan and Lyra moved carefully, each step measured. They had survived several battles, but they both knew the Valyrians would not forget her betrayal, and humans would not understand her presence. Danger was close, and trust between their two species was fragile. Yet the bond between them had grown stronger with each passing day. Ethan led his small team through a collapsed street. He could still feel Lyra nearby, silent and watchful, her blade ready. The strange trust between them had grown. He no longer feared her as an enemy, but he was aware of the tension in the air. Her people could strike at any moment, and she would be caught between loyalty to her kind and the connection she now felt with him. Lyra moved like a shadow beside them. She felt the pull of his blood in a way that scared her. Humans were supposed to be weak and simple, but Ethan was different. She had tasted his blood in battle, and it had awakened something inside her, courage, respect, and emotions she had never known. She had spent her life fighting humans, yet now she protected one, risking her life in ways she could not explain. As they moved, a sudden tremor shook the ground. Dust fell from the broken buildings, and distant alarms echoed through the city. Ethan froze and held up a hand. The squad crouched instinctively. Lyra's eyes narrowed. She could sense the approaching danger before it appeared, a patrol of Valyrians more organized and dangerous than the last. The humans prepared to fight, but Lyra stepped forward. She moved silently, her blade gleaming. One by one she took down the attackers before they could react. Her movements were deadly, precise, and yet careful. She avoided harming Ethan's squad, focusing only on the enemies. Ethan watched her in awe. He had faced many enemies in his life, but none like Lyra. She was powerful, skilled, and terrifying. And yet she fought to protect him. He could feel it in the way she moved, the way she watched him, the way she risked herself to keep him alive. After the fight, they caught their breath in the ruins of an old factory. Lyra leaned against a wall, exhausted but alert. Ethan approached her cautiously. "Why do you protect me?" he asked quietly. Her eyes met his, and for a moment the world seemed to stop. "I do not know," she admitted. "When I tasted your blood, I felt something. Something I have never felt before. I could not let you die. Not then. Not now." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we keep moving. We cannot stay here." They traveled for hours through the city, avoiding patrols and broken streets. The bond between them grew with every step. Lyra learned more about Ethan, his squad, and human courage. Ethan learned about Lyra, her people, and the strange feelings awakened in her by his blood. That evening, they found shelter in a partially collapsed building. Ethan checked their supplies and weapons. Lyra stayed at the entrance, watching the ruins. The sun was setting, casting a red glow over the city. The light reflected in her silver hair, making her look almost otherworldly. Ethan approached her quietly. "You could leave," he said softly. Your people will come looking for you. You don't have to stay, she shook her head. I cannot, I do not understand what I feel. But I cannot turn back. Not now, Ethan nodded. He did not fully understand either, but he felt the same connection. They had survived together, fought together, and now something more had begun, something neither of them could name. The next morning they continued their journey. Lyra led them through hidden paths in the ruins, avoiding main streets and patrols. Her knowledge of the city was unmatched, and her presence kept them safe. Ethan noticed how she seemed more alert than ever, her senses sharp and focused on him as much as on their surroundings. As they crossed a narrow bridge over a crumbled street, a sudden alarm echoed through the city. The Valyrians had discovered their presence. Ethan's squad prepared for battle, but Lyra's eyes widened. She could sense something more, an intelligence behind the attack. The Valyrians were no longer acting randomly. They had a plan, and it involved them. They ran through the ruins, dodging energy blasts and falling debris. Lyra fought alongside them, cutting down attackers with speed and precision. Ethan realized that her bond with him had made her stronger in a different way. She was not just a warrior, she was a protector, aware of his movements, anticipating his needs, and risking herself to save him. When they reached a safe hiding place, they paused. Ethan looked at her, his expression serious. We need to know what they're planning, he said. This is not random. They want something. Lyra nodded, her eyes troubled. I can sense it. There is a force behind the attack, something controlling them. Something. Ancient, Ethan frowned. Ancient? Yes, she said. It is not just my people fighting. Something beneath this city, beneath the planet. It controls the war. I have felt it even before I tasted your blood. But now I can sense it more clearly. It is dangerous, Ethan's mind raced. He had fought many battles, faced many enemies, but he had never faced something like this. A hidden force manipulating both humans and Valyrians, driving them into endless war. We need to find it, he said. We need to stop it before it destroys everything. Lyra nodded. She felt the truth of his words. Together they began searching the ruins for signs of the hidden intelligence. Hours turned into days as they moved carefully through the crumbled city, avoiding patrols and traps. Lyra's knowledge of the ruins kept them safe, and Ethan's human determination pushed them forward. During their journey, they shared stories and experiences. Ethan learned more about Lyra's life, her people, and the battles she had fought. Lyra learned about humans, their courage, their fears, and their hope. The bond between them grew stronger, built on trust, survival, and the strange connection formed by his blood. One night, they reached a hidden chamber beneath the city. It was dark, damp, and filled with strange machinery. Lyra's eyes widened. This is it, she whispered. This is where the intelligence resides. The source of the war. Ethan stepped forward, his heart pounding. He could feel the power in the room, a strange energy that pulsed like a living thing. We stop it here, he said firmly. We end this war. Lyra nodded. She could feel his courage, his determination, and the bond they shared. It gave her strength she had never known. Together they moved deeper into the chamber, ready to face the unknown. The air grew colder as they approached the central core of the machinery. Strange lights flickered and the hum of energy filled the chamber. Ethan could feel it, a force older than either of them controlling minds and fueling conflict. Lyra touched his arm lightly. Be careful, she said softly. It can see us. It knows us, Ethan nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility. This was not just a battle for survival. It was a battle to save both humans and Valyrians. He glanced at Lyra. She had risked everything for him, and now they faced the ultimate danger together. They advanced cautiously, each step echoing in the vast chamber. The energy pulsed faster, reacting to their presence. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she tried to sense the intelligence. She could feel its thoughts, its plans, and its power. It was unlike anything she had experienced. Ethan clenched his fists. We end this, he said quietly. No matter what it takes, Lyra nodded. She could feel his determination, and it gave her courage. Together they would face the ancient intelligence, the force controlling the war, and whatever dangers awaited them. The chamber trembled, and the energy surged. The war of Vara had brought them here, and now the final test of their bond and courage had begun. Ethan and Lyra stood side by side, ready to fight not just for themselves, but for the future of their people. For the first time, Both human and Valyrian felt hope. A spark had ignited between them, a spark of trust, courage, and connection, and as they stepped forward into the unknown, they knew that whatever happened next would change their world forever. The stars above Vera 9 shone faintly through the ruins, but inside the chamber, the energy of the ancient intelligence pulsed stronger than ever. Ethan and Lyra faced it together, their bond unbroken, their courage unyielding, and their determination unwavering. The war had led them here, but together they might end it. The chamber trembled as Ethan and Lyra stepped closer to the core of the ancient intelligence. Lights flickered along the walls, casting strange shadows over the machinery. The air hummed with energy, and Ethan could feel it pressing against his mind. It was alive, calculating, and it knew they were there. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she reached out with her senses. "It can see us," she whispered. "It knows what we think, what we feel. Be ready." Ethan nodded. He tightened his grip on his rifle and glanced at her. She looked determined but tired. Her breathing was steady, but he could see the strain in her posture. He felt a surge of protectiveness. For weeks she had risked her life for him, and now he would risk everything to protect her. The core pulsed faster, and a deep voice filled the chamber. "Intruders detected. Humans, Valyrians, you cannot stop the war." "You are too late." Ethan took a step forward. "We're not too late," he said firmly. "We're ending this right now." The intelligence reacted instantly, sending waves of energy toward them. The ground shook violently, throwing them off balance. Lyra raised her blade, deflecting the blasts with skill. Ethan fired his rifle at the energy conduits, hoping to disrupt the flow. Sparks flew, and the hum of the chamber grew louder. "You cannot defeat me," the voice roared. "You are too weak." Ethan glanced at Lyra. "We are stronger together," he said. "We stop this now." She nodded. Her hand brushed against his arm, a small gesture, but it strengthened him. The bond formed by his blood and her courage gave them both power. She felt his determination, and he felt her resolve. They moved as one. Lyra stepped forward first, her blade slicing through the energy barriers, protecting the core. She could feel his blood linking her to him, giving her strength she had never known. She could feel his mind, his courage, and his will, and it flowed through her like fire. Ethan followed, targeting the machinery with precise shots. Sparks and flames erupted, and the chamber shook more violently. The intelligence tried to push them back with waves of power, but their bond held. They were no longer just human and Valyrian. They were partners, connected in ways the machine could not understand. Suddenly, the energy pulsed stronger, and Lyra cried out. Her body trembled as the machine tried to seize control of her mind. Ethan rushed to her side, holding her hand. "Stay with me," he shouted. "We are stronger together." Lyra closed her eyes and focused. She could feel his courage, his strength, and his hope coursing through her. She drew on the bond formed by his blood and her own will, channeling it into the machine. The core shuddered and cracked, sparks flying in every direction. "You cannot control us," Ethan shouted, firing at the final energy conduits. The machine screamed, its voice shaking the chamber. "We choose our own fate." The chamber shook violently as the energy surged. Lyra's body glowed with a strange light, the bond of blood and courage linking her to Ethan. She pushed all her strength into the core, and Ethan followed with precise shots, breaking the machinery. The machine convulsed, its control over the war collapsing. Suddenly, a massive pulse of energy erupted from the core, sweeping over the chamber. Ethan threw himself over Lyra to protect her. The light was blinding, and the force threatened to tear them apart. Lyra gripped his hand tightly, their bond anchoring them against the surge. When the light faded, the chamber was silent. The machinery was destroyed, and the hum of the intelligence was gone. Ethan and Lyra lay on the ground, exhausted but alive. The energy had passed, leaving them weak but victorious. Lyra opened her eyes slowly. She looked at Ethan, her face pale but glowing with a strange warmth. "We did it," she whispered. Ethan helped her sit up. He was bruised and scorched, but his eyes were bright. "Yes," he said softly. "We ended it. The war, it's over." They stood together, surveying the chamber. The ancient intelligence that had fueled the conflict between humans and Valyrians was gone. Both species would be free to rebuild, to heal, and to choose their own future. And it was because of them, two warriors from opposite sides working together, trusting each other and bound by courage. Lyra looked at him, her voice trembling. I never thought I would feel this way." I was trained to kill humans, to see them as weak. But you changed me, your blood. It showed me strength, courage, and something more. I cannot leave you, Ethan's heart pounded. He had felt the same. He stepped closer, taking her hand in his. You don't have to, he said. I don't care what your people think or what anyone else thinks. We survived this together, that bond. It's ours. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. She had never cried before, not in battle, not in victory, not in defeat. But now she felt something stronger than fear or anger, something she had never known. She leaned toward him and he met her halfway. Their foreheads touched, a silent promise of trust, respect, and something more. Outside the chamber, the city was quiet. The battle for Vera 9 was over. Humans and Valyrians emerged cautiously from the ruins, realizing the war had ended, confused, wary, but alive. The machine that had controlled them was gone, and both species could finally choose peace. Ethan and Lyra stepped out of the chamber together, their bond unbroken. Humans and Valyrians watched them, unsure what to make of this unusual alliance. But no one could deny the courage of the human and the Valyrian who had ended the war. Days passed, and the survivors began to rebuild. Ethan's squad worked with the Valyrians, learning from each other and sharing skills. Lyra stayed by his side, learning about humans, their culture, and their resilience. Together, they became a symbol of hope for both species, proof that understanding and trust could overcome hatred and war. One evening, as the sun set over the ruins, Ethan and Lyra stood on a hill overlooking the city. The fires were gone, replaced by the gentle glow of lanterns and the sounds of rebuilding. Children, human and Valyrian, played together in the streets, unaware of the horrors that had once surrounded them. Lyra turned to Ethan, her eyes reflecting the light of the setting sun.
I never thought I would see this, she said softly.
Peace together, and I never thought I would feel this. Ethan smiled, taking her hand. You don't have to imagine it anymore, he said. We made it real together. Her lips curved into a small smile. I tasted your blood, she whispered. And it changed me. I felt your courage, your hope, and I realized that even an enemy can become something more. You're my end, human, but in a way I never imagined. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Then we face the future together, he said. No matter what comes, we face it together. She nodded, leaning close to him. The bond formed in battle, sealed by blood, courage, and trust, had grown into something neither of them fully understood, but both cherished. They had survived war, defied their own people, and ended a conflict that could have destroyed both species. The stars appeared above Vera 9, shining over the city as if celebrating their victory. Ethan and Lyra stood side by side, looking out at the future they had fought to create. A future of hope, trust, and a bond stronger than any war. And though the memories of battle would never fade, they knew one truth. The human warrior and the Valyrian warrior had changed each other forever. A bond of blood, courage, and trust that no machine, no enemy, and no war could ever break. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. We did it, he said. Lyra smiled softly, tears glinting in her eyes. Yes, she said. Together. The wind blew softly across the ruins of Vera 9, carrying the promise of a new beginning. And in the quiet, two warriors from opposite worlds stood together, ready to face whatever came next, united, stronger, and bound forever by the courage they had shared and the blood that had changed them both. The war had ended. The bond remained. And for Ethan and Lyra, this was only the beginning of a story far greater than any battle they had fought.